You know, what if the most powerful weapon in a war isn't a missile, but a message? Sometimes the real story of a conflict isn't just about what's been destroyed, but about what's being communicated. The battle isn't only fought with weapons, but with images, headlines, and just plain fear. So today, let's dive into this intense war of perception that's playing out over the skies of Haifa.
Heavy damage reported after another intense overnight wave. I mean, you see headlines like this, right? They're designed to grab you, to paint this picture of overwhelming force. And the social media clips and the first news reports that follow, they do the exact same thing. They build this immediate story of chaos and crisis.
First, you see the images. Shattered glass just everywhere, carpeting streets and balconies. It's so visceral, right? It's an instant sign of impact that brings the conflict right into people's neighborhoods. This isn't just about damage, it's a direct attack on your sense of safety.
Then you see the aftermath, flashing lights everywhere, emergency crews carefully making their way through all the rubble. This kind of footage, it's a stark reminder of the disruption and the very real human side of the attack. It creates this powerful visual of a city completely under siege.
And then you get the wide shots, huge plumes of smoke billowing up against the skyline. These images, they create this feeling of widespread, major destruction. It's a powerful and, frankly, a terrifying spectacle, and it's all designed to scream vulnerability on a massive scale.
So after seeing all of that, it's really easy to assume the city is just crippled. But what if there's more to it? Is the perception that these clips create the full reality of what's happening on the ground?
And that right there is the crucial point. A phrase like heavy damage is incredibly powerful, but it's often just preliminary. It creates an instant story that can be really hard to correct, even after the full, verified picture comes out. That sense of crisis gets embedded long before all the facts are in. So what you have are these two competing narratives that come from the very same event. On one side, you've got the viral story of catastrophic damage and defenses being totally overwhelmed. And on the other, you have the official assessment, which usually points to more localized impacts and, importantly, fallout from successful interceptions, not direct hits.
Okay, let's talk about this term interception fallout because it's key to understanding what's going on. Think of it like this. Imagine someone hits a home run, but an outfielder makes an amazing catch right at the wall. The catch is a success, right? But what if in the process, the player crashes into the wall and a piece of the scoreboard falls off? That's interception fallout. The shattered glass you see on the ground might not be from a missile hitting its target, but from that missile being successfully blown up in the air. It's a sign of defensive success that can look and feel like failure down on the ground.
And this is where it gets even more complicated, because misinformation is absolutely a weapon here. A fact check from Misbar found a super viral video of a burning refinery. Well, it wasn't even from Israel. Old footage or clips with no context, they get used all the time to amplify fear and create this false sense of destruction. And all of this brings us to the city at the very center of it all, Haifa.
So why Haifa? I mean, really, to understand this whole war of perception, we have to understand why this specific city is such a powerful psychological target.
See, Haifa isn't just any city. It's a major population center. It's home to absolutely critical energy infrastructure. We're talking the Bayzan Group oil refineries, and it's a key industrial hub. Because of all that, it's also a psychologically important location. Any attack here just feels more significant, and it sends these ripples of anxiety far beyond the actual city limits. So every single time an alarm sounds over Haifa, we have to analyze it on two different levels. First, okay, what's the actual physical damage? But second, and this is often way more important, what is the symbolic message being sent by repeatedly putting the strategic city right in the crosshairs? And that's where the war of messages really kicks into high gear.
This kind of symbolic targeting is a huge part of the bigger war of messages. It's not just about military strategy, it's about shaping the story for audiences at home and all around the world, basically making everyone a participant in this psychological conflict.
On this slide, you can really see the two sides' playbooks laid out. For Iran, the goal is to show persistence and reach. They don't actually need to land some catastrophic blow, they just need to keep showing that they can touch these sensitive locations. This creates this slow, building psychological pressure and the perception of vulnerability, which can be just as damaging as any physical attack.
And for Israel, wow, it's like a three-front war. First, they obviously have to stop the missiles in the air. That's the operational fight. But then they have a messaging battle. They have to reassure their own nervous population that the defenses are actually working, while also managing the constant stress of living under threat. And finally, there's the strategic puzzle. How do you respond to this constant pressure without triggering a much, much wider war?
And that strategic puzzle, it isn't being solved in a vacuum. There's this huge international dimension at play here, and it adds another layer of crazy complexity to every single decision.
Yeah, this quote from Reuters really highlights that international pressure. The source material points out that the United States, under President Trump, was actively telling Israel to be careful about certain kinds of retaliation, especially anything involving energy targets.
So just imagine this for a second. You're trying to manage a very real, very persistent threat at home, but at the same time, you're getting pressure from your most important ally to show restraint and avoid a regional explosion. I mean, talk about a tightrope walk with absolutely no safety net. It's redefining the very nature of this conflict.
So what does it mean to win a war when the battlefield is really perception? We're looking at a whole new kind of conflict here, one where the old ideas of winning and losing just don't quite fit anymore. And this is really the key takeaway. In this conflict, victory isn't just about blowing things up. It's about who controls the story, who manages public psychology, and who can just withstand the pressure campaign the longest. It's a war of nerves just as much as it's a war of munitions.
Which leaves us with this final thought. If the battlefield is perception and the weapon is fear, who actually gets to decide who's winning? Is it the side that lands the most physical punches, or is it the side that convinces the world and its own people that it simply can't be broken? And in a war like this, can anyone ever truly win?